Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 1 year in business.
I just want to take this opportunity Kevin's given me to say thank you. Thank you for instilling a trust in me, to selecting me, choosing me to be the next mayor of this great city we call Palm Bay. I really appreciate the opportunity. I won't let you down. I'll serve you through God, honor, and integrity. May God bless you. May God keep you. May God continue to bless our great city, Palm Bay. Hoorah.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Good evening, Palm Bay, and welcome to another edition of Palm Bay Life. I'm your host, Kevin Vassiana, and with me in the studio today is Mr. Phil Moore, candidate for Palm Bay City Council Seat 5. We're looking forward to the special election on March 8th, and for the last 2 weeks, we've been preparing you with these candidates, having them interviewed on this platform so you can they can voice their concerns they have for the city and tell us the reason why they're voting. So I'm going to ask a favor from you today, because I'm aware the city is, on a whole, is not aware that there's a special election happening right now. We need to like and share this video to many platforms as you can, to your personal page, wherever you can. Please get the word out. There's a special election on March 8th. we're afraid there's going to be a low voter turnout, and we would like the city to be aware what's happening. There is going to be a debate next week. At 8 p.m. There will be a debate, a live debate, and bringing a special moderator. I'm bringing a special artist to come in and sing the national anthem for us. So I put a lot of my all into this to make sure this works the way it should this year. So we want to make sure that a lot of folks come in and watch the presentation and make sure they ask the questions that they need to ask of these candidates. Please send your questions for the debate. I need you to send your questions for the debate to my email address beforehand, by Saturday. I need all the questions in for the debate because no questions will be taken live during the debate. Send them to palmbaylive@gmail.com. That's palmbaylive@gmail.com. Please send them by Saturday, this Saturday coming, so I can parse them out and make sure they go in the right categories, etc., and make sure we don't have repetitious questions, and we can rephrase them if they need rephrasing, etc., etc., all that good stuff. So we need to make sure that they're properly delivered to the candidates. They can understand exactly what is being said, and they can answer it appropriately. So we're gonna ask you to do that for this Saturday. So thank you so much, and welcome to the show, Mr. Moore. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, good evening, Kevin. Well, I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me. And thank you for, as you're saying, all the work that you're doing for this special election, trying to get the word out, and what you're putting forward for the debate too. I do appreciate it. And I thank you for the work that you're trying to do to make sure that our citizens stay informed on this special election.
Great. Thank you. Yes, there's a lot of work behind the scenes, but I started something, and if I start something, I'm not going to drop it until it gets done. And that's how I operate. So, and I thank you to the citizens who are help pushing this initiative. And so welcome to the platform. And I'm going to ask you, Mr. Moore, to introduce yourself and tell us why you're running for seat 5.
Sure. Thanks. So everybody and all the residents and everybody listening and watching, my name is Phil Moore. I'm a candidate running for Palm Bay seat 5. And just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and a little history. I came to Melbourne and to Brevard County back in 1997. I came here after getting my master's degree in sports medicine, and I was brought here to work at Florida Tech. Worked at Florida Tech for about 5 years, working as the head athletic trainer of all of the sports teams there. I was the only person for a while working on all the sports. I got an intern finally after about 5 years, and after doing a lot of long, hard work for that job, I decided that it was time to make a move. And I then took on a job at Health First, working as a personal trainer, still in the same field, working at what was then known as Pro Health and Fitness. They're now defunct, but it was working for Health First. I worked with that job here in Brevard County for 15 years. And it was during that time period, in that 15 years, that we had the recession. I was living in Palm Bay at the time, was a homeowner in Palm Bay for 5 years. We had the recession, and unfortunately, like many other residents in Palm Bay, had to foreclose on my home and had to figure out what I was going to do then, because we all know disposable income wasn't easy to come by. So I had to figure out what I was going to do. But at that point in time, I had already established that Brevard was going to be my home and Palm Bay was going to be the place I was going to stay. So I tried to make sure that I made ends meet. And as many people did during that time, struggled. And I struggled along with everybody else. But luckily, I was able to get back on my feet. And for the last 5 years, I have been working as a medical device instructor who travels around the nation teaching a class on a specific medical device. Now, the traveling all stopped when COVID hit. So having to, as many people did, again, reinvent yourself and figure out what you're going to do for income, I took on that opportunity to say, let me take up something that I've done in the past, which is photography is something I've always wanted to do. So I took up wildlife photography. And also, while my medical device work is picking back up, I'm also doing some wildlife photography. In between there, I've been very active in the community during the 15 years working as a personal trainer. I was an advocate at the time as a big cyclist and I helped put on a lot of triathlons and other cycling events here in the community, some that were going under, and wanted to make sure that we had some recreational events for our citizens here in Brevard County. So it was during that time that I became a big advocate for bike ped safety. I worked with the county with a group called the Space Coast TPO, Transportation and Planning Organization. And I understood that we needed to work on making sure that we had safe roads, safe pedestrian pathways, and multimodal pathways, which is just another way of saying pathways for people to bike, run, jog, and be able to access safely. So I was involved with that organization and was an advocate for that for about 10 years during that same time that I was working as a personal trainer. And also during that time, I was swimming in the Indian River Lagoon, paddleboarding, kayaking, and became keenly aware of the degradation of our environment in the Indian River Lagoon. And I became an advocate for the Indian River Lagoon during that time too. It was actually during one of our triathlon events that we were putting on that we had one of the big fish kills. And we were literally sitting out there with garbage bags trying to scoop up as many dead fish as we could to see if we were even going to host an event at that time. And turns out we didn't. We didn't have the swim. We just did a bike and run event because of the situation that was happening with the Indian River Lagoon. I was a big advocate and proponent for the half-cent sales tax. I was trying to collect petitions so that the voters had the opportunity to vote on that. And I'm happy to say that the voters did see the need to try to go ahead and fund the restoration of the Indian River Lagoon. So environment has always been a key factor of what I've been doing to try to help out Brevard County, as well as infrastructure with safe roads, with bike ped safety. So that brings me here on why I want to continue running to help out Palm Bay and some of those very same things.
Yes, sir. Well, you have a good resume there of things that's happening in your life. So a lot of questions has been percolating about where you actually live. So let's go right to the meat of it. Where do you actually live, Mr. Moore?
I
You live
do.
in Palm Bay?
I do live in Palm Bay, yes, and I've been a resident in Palm Bay long enough so that I can qualify to run for this seat. I do qualify and meet the qualifications to run for Palm Bay City Council. So that I know that's, I think a lot of people wonder if anybody qualifies. I know there are other candidates, or not for this position, but in other races who probably don't live in their district or don't live in the area. So I understand the hesitancy or wanting to know where people live, but I do live in the city of Palm Bay and I do qualify to meet the qualifications.
Awesome. All right. So that person, I don't think that's their name. Songs for You. That's the answer to that question. So now we can move on. We have some more questions on the board, and we're going to take them here in a second. Let me try to show some questions. You recently ran for State Senate seat District 53. So you kind of talked about why you're running, why you're here. Enlighten us again. Why Palm Bay City Council? Why now? Why now?
Yes, so I have run in the past for State House, for State Representative District 53. And I'm currently, I saw the need to help out. I think we see that local elections really matter and that there has been an attack. There are what are called preemption laws coming from the state. And the state basically tries to micromanage how municipalities run. This is happening in not only the state of Florida, but throughout many states in the nation. And they're taking away the ability for cities to be able to do their job, the governing that the cities are given with the charter that is in place and that the citizens say they should be doing. So I saw the need, given that there was a resignation after having run for state representative, and I did want to serve the citizens here in Brevard County. So I saw this as an opportunity to continue to strive to meet that opportunity and that need to serve. So I wanted to continue on that path, and that's what brought me to this special election. And if this special election and the resignation hadn't occurred, I probably would have found another way to try to serve the city of Palm Bay, but this seems to be the best opportunity here.
Speaking of which, are you a current member of the Palm Bay Charter Review Committee?
Yes, I am. So there is a charter review currently going on for the city of Palm Bay. I was appointed by a council member, and I'm currently serving on the Palm Bay Charter Review Board, Commission, it's called.
Okay. Can you tell us about some of the changes that is probably in the works or that is being proposed?
Yes, I can. So one of my proposed changes, any member of the commission can make propose changes. Those proposals get voted on by the commission, and if they are voted in by the commission, then they get sent to the city council after we finish doing our whole review, and then the city council will vote on those recommendations. If the city council sees fit to vote in favor of those recommendations, then those recommendations would go to the voters on the ballot in November for the voters to vote on it to see if we're going to make those changes to the charter. So my recommendation was to actually bring some unity to where we have this special election written in ordinance. We have no other municipality in the area in Brevard County that has language like this. So I wanted to bring uniformity to where our language in our charter matches other cities, other municipalities around Brevard County to try to help keep some consistency and to allow the citizens to keep the same kind of on the same page with when elections actually happen. So my proposal was to say that we have an appointment if somebody resigns or dies or some other reason in that manner until the next city-wide election, which would be a November election. So the appointment would happen then. There also is a stipulation there for 60 days. The city council has that opportunity to make that appointment. If they can't make that appointment within 60 days, then a special election would be triggered at that time. But I'm trying to create uniformity so that we don't have to run into a situation like this again. I'm trying to make sure that we're not spending money on a special election that's only going to last 6 months. So that not only could we have this special election where we're spending the money on right now, elections aren't going to get any cheaper, but we also could, somebody could pass away. We could end up with another special election in the very near future and have to spend another $250,000 to run another election. And the other thing, of course, is, and as you mentioned, I think you alluded to this at the very beginning, is special elections historically have a very low voter turnout, right? So if you have a special election, you're really not capturing the citizens of Palm Bay's wishes or wills, or actually getting them engaged in the voting process. But everybody knows that elections come around in November, and that's when people get that in their mindset. And when all the other elections are coming around, if we keep it on the same cycle, then they're going to know that this is an election coming up, and you'll get more voters to come out and vote in those November elections. So that's my proposal there, and those are my reasons why I'm proposing it.
All right, Ms. Jane Jackson, hopefully that answers your question, because I noticed that you did put that up there. Hopefully that clarifies some things for you. If not, please go ahead and restate another question for me, and I'll get it up on the screen. Let's get another question in here. Will you vote to raise property taxes?
So that's an interesting question. And I think I might be the only candidate that actually took the time during this special election period and actually met with all of our departments in the city. So I met with fire. I set up a meeting with police before I found out that the chief was retiring. I'm happy to hear he's retiring and moving on. But I'm going to reschedule another meeting there. And I actually took the time to meet with our finance department. I met with our city manager. And so I looked at and wanted to go over some of the finances and how our millage works and how our taxes work. And historically, our taxes, our millage rate has actually been going down. We're seeing a lot of growth in the city of Palm Bay. So there's actually some ways that we're actually constricted right now in actually making sure that we're meeting the services that we need in the city as it's growing as it is. So even if we kept things copacetic, we would be better off than where we are right now, which is constantly having to reduce. We're in a phase right now where we constantly have to reduce what we are able to utilize. But even if we had things at a copacetic level where we kept everything the same, we would be much better off. But again, I mentioned that we're forced to have to reduce our millage rate. We're forced to have to reduce everything because we have this cap in place. But if we were able to keep everything copacetic, we probably could get through a few years where we don't have to raise millage at all.
Okay, sir. Thank you for that question. Let me go to another question. What will you do to control spending to prevent ongoing debt being continuously passed on to taxpayers?
So we do, I mean, we obviously pay for things as we, that's what taxes pay for, as we need roads, as we need services, whether fire or police or water. Those are the things we paid for. So as the city develops and city grows, we have new growth that comes in that helps supplement or pay in to what the services that they need. So you shouldn't see much in terms of increases as long as the services that are there rendered are for the development and the people that are there, it's being served. So I'm not sure I understand where you're going to see an increase. I'm trying to reread the question too to make sure I'm getting that correctly. Control spending. So, I mean, we do have it right now so that the citizens get to vote on quite a few things. For instance, we had the Go Road bond. When we had the need to repair and rebuild our aging roads, which was something that we all knew we had in Palm Bay for a very long time, we brought it to the citizens and said, here's what we have to do. And we have to pay for this. And we need to do this through a bond. And we need to make sure that we have the citizens on board to be able to incur this fee. And so that's one thing that we did. We did the same thing recently with stormwater. And we had to increase or incur a fee for stormwater so that we have proper stormwater. So you have two ways of doing it. You can do it through fees or you can do it through tax increases. One way or the other, though, we got to pay for these services that we need to have as we expand and make sure that we have a developing city.
Okay. All right. Let's remove that from the screen. Okay. Sir, so have you attended any of the town halls related to the comprehensive plan? And if so, what are your thoughts on that?
So I haven't had the opportunity personally to attend, but it's online and I have downloaded and looked at the comprehensive plan. You actually had some opportunity for some interaction where you could go and click on what recommendations you would like to see as they were putting together the comprehensive plan. And like I mentioned before, I actually took the time and sat down with our city manager and went over some of my concerns and some of my main topics and issues that I would be looking at as we're looking at developing the city in the future plan use. And a couple of my issues are actually some of the things that we're going to be addressing in our what is called Vision 2040. That's the comprehensive plan. And one of my main issues is as we're looking at developing out Palm Bay, I want to make sure that we hold some land for future land use for preservation and conservation of lands. Historically, Palm Bay has been an area where the only way we get in any tax revenue is if we sell off all our lands to developers. And then we get the single family home, the multifamily home use tax revenue from that. But in that same token, what we haven't looked at is we haven't looked at conserving or preserving any lands for the future, for our children, or even for our own recreational use. And that's one of my top priorities, is making sure that we do that for our future comprehensive plan. Another issue that is in the comprehensive plan, and I'm fully on board with, is looking at revitalizing areas that are blighted, areas that kind of fell in disrepair and behind. And that goes in conjunction with another area that I'm looking at is to how to spur commercial growth in the city. And we have some areas which I believe can be great commercial avenues. And I want to work on those blighted areas, spur commercial growth. We can do that through tax incentives. We can also, be more creative in some of the ways we do that as well. But that's in the vision plan, and those are some of the areas that I really want to work on, and we kind of jive there, just on the same thing on the plan. So that's really good.
Okay. All right. I'm liking the sound of that. Let's take another question from the community. Let's see. Okay, here's one. Did he move to Palm Bay just for political gain?
Well, I've been a Palm Bay resident since, I've been in Brevard County since 1997, and I had no intention of ever being in politics. But it wasn't until I ran for state representative where I saw the need for people to step up, regular citizens, regular everyday citizens. And when I ran for state representative, I said, we need less multimillionaires in political office and more everyday working class citizens who work 2 and 3 jobs representing us. to represent our values and what we're looking to what we need. And that's one of the reasons why I ran for office in the first place, is I just didn't see enough of that type of representation. So I'm glad and proud to be able to try to represent Palm Bay in the same manner as a working class citizen, as a resident of Palm Bay. No, it wasn't, I would never had any political aspirations. It's never been something that I thought I'd be doing in my entire life. But I've been in a kind of a service oriented kind of lifestyle where I've always wanted to help out the community. And this is just a bigger, better role to do that in.
Okay, sir. All right. Ms. Foe asks, how do you feel about a 3% gap on taxes in Palm Bay?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And that's going to be coming up in our charter review. So you guys are getting a little preview here on that. Interestingly enough, again, I met with our finance department in the city of Palm Bay, and I found out that 3% cap, we're the only municipality, and I'm not sure if this is true, but I'll have to you can fact check this, but we might be the only municipality in the entire state of Florida that has a 3% cap, that has any kind of cap like that in place. We're definitely the only one in the county. The way I try to look at the 3% cap, and I try to figure out an analogy or way to look at this, I think of it like a constrictor, a boa constrictor. And as you try to take a breath and the city tries to grow and breathe, that constrictor actually tightens up even more. And it actually starts to suffocate and constrict what the municipality can do in terms of growth. The 3% cap is actually hindering us in what we are able to do in the city for being able to provide services as the city grows. It keeps on constricting even more and more the more the city grows. And a good example of the 3% cap and how it's had some negative impacts is you can just look what's happening with the county. And the county has had to break the cap a couple of times. They have a 3% cap in place. And the reason they've had to break it is they just can't follow it. It just can't be done. And they've had to reduce services in so many other ways. And so the 3% cap has really been constricting on the county. And it's been doing the same thing here in the city. We've been able to manage for the last couple of years because it's only been implemented for a short period of time, I think 4 years now, or going on 4 years. But I look in the finances they were able to share with me, and it's been a diminishing return to where it is going to be at a point where it's completely suffocated us. So I'm not in favor of it. I don't think it's beneficial. And really, there's really no other city that has that in place. And there's a good reason why.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your answer. Ms. Foe asks again, let's go ahead and let's get these questions out of the way really fast, some of them. Where do you stand on raises for city council members? That's actually one of my questions too as well. There is something percolating that there's going to be an ask for raises for city council members. Do you know their current salary? And do you think there's a need for raises right now?
So the current salary is somewhere like, I think it's close to $12,000 for your council members. And I think it's close to 20 some thousand, 22,000 or something like that. Don't quote me on the price for the mayor's compensation. I'm not quite sure on that. But what we would look at is the size of the city, and if the pay rate matches and correlates with comparable city sizes. And that's what we would look at to see if your city council members are paid around the same comparable rate as another city that's of comparable size. So we're reviewing that right now. We haven't come up with any firm figures, or if we're there. We're probably not. There probably will be some type of raise because $11,000 for a city that I believe is the 17th largest in the state doesn't match up at all. Especially when you're looking at the work that your council members and your mayor does. It is not an $11,000 type of job. They do it. Sometimes they're working every day at some way, shape, or form on your city to help you out, to help out the residents in the city, make sure that it's working good and having a meeting. So it's not comparable right now, I don't believe, and it is something we will be looking at.
Okay, so that's like what, $1,000 a month average,
Yeah.
somewhere around there. Okay. Miss Marcia Williams asks, "What are your plans for the city?" But I think you pretty much answered a majority of that already. So we
I
can.
mean, there's a couple other things that the city is currently doing that I'm really in favor of. They're
Okay.
moving in the right direction. One of the big issues for me right now, I think not just for me, but for many citizens of Palm Bay, is affordable housing. We're seeing house prices skyrocket. We're seeing rent prices go out of control, and we're having to manage how we are helping out our people through COVID with homelessness. The city is taking a forward moving step on that, and I'd be moving forward with what they're working on. They've got a dignity bus that they're working on. They're working on making sure that we're working on putting together another cold night shelter. Where previous council and councilman Vice Mayor Kenny Johnson has looked at affordable housing options. So I'm right on board with them on some of those other things we can do to help out the city.
I'm glad you addressed the homeless situation, so I don't have to ask you that question. You already addressed it. Okay, good. Let's see. Any other questions here? Let's see. Let me scroll down really fast. What are your plans for fail over budget road improvements? And while you're at it, since you're going to address a question about roads, tell me your thoughts on the road bond, the current situation with our reserves as far as maintenance of the roads, etc.
Okay. Yeah. So as I understand it, the Go Road bond has been actually working fairly well. They've been moving through different phases. And because of the work that they've been doing, we've seen improvements on a lot of our roads. And that improvement on our roads has actually spurred more development. People now see that they have a good road to build a home on, and they're actually coming in and actually building on those lands. We're actually at a phase where we're actually starting to maintain the roads that we went ahead and built on. And as we put them on a regular maintenance schedule, then we're actually going to have to do less work to have to rebuild and reclaim and pull out the whole road and redo it all over again. So I think we're starting to get in a good spot to where we're going to be on a regular maintenance schedule to fix up roads, repatch roads, and just put over a top layer onto those roads. There are some sections that have not been addressed. That's obvious, and we do need to make sure that we address those sections, and those are still in the plans, and that's still going to cost a little bit of money. We try to, and again, I've been in the TPO where we try to plan these things out, where we look at how long it's going to take to build a road and how much it's going to cost for that project. But we try to give our best estimates, and we try to do the best with what we're looking at in terms of engineering and cost of materials and so on and so forth. And those can sometimes change and fluctuate along the way. But I can say that the work that the city's doing, one of the things I would like to see the city continue to do is to work on transparency, to make sure that the work that's being done in the city, how the citizens' money is being spent, is easily accessible to the citizens, because then they can see, okay, here's what's happening with that money for whether it be the Go Road bond, whether it be stormwater, or whether it be just general fund and how that money is being spent out. It's there, but it's just not that accessible. And so I want to make that more accessible. I think that helps with transparency, and that would help alleviate some of the people who might think that there's mismanagement and that there's waste, or there's a lot of waste, or that the money's being misspent, because it's not. From what I've seen, it's not. And we're trying to use the money as, well, I say we, the city council is trying to use the money as best they can, as good stewards with your tax dollars.
Mr. Moore, are you in favor of the way the city is being built out right now, as far as different housing developments going up? And how do you plan to ensure more preservation and conservation of land as the city develops?
Yeah. So to answer your first part of the question, a quick answer is no. I was never, we've had to deal with an infrastructure and development of a city that was never well planned to begin with. the way it was laid out back in the 80s with GDC. And when you had that layout, we were really behind the eight ball on how to fix that, because you have just sprawl. You have everywhere somebody's developed something. And that type of sprawl is never good. You want to have what I call smart growth, which is basically building smaller communities that are walkable in nature first, have public transportation second, and then have drivable space third. So then you build that small community first, and then you build out from there. And that build out, when it's needed, you won't have that sprawl, because then you find the need to utilize that extra space for either single family homes or more kind of suburban type homes. But that's not the way Palm Bay has ever been built. And even to its current state, unfortunately, you see now there's development down in the south section with the new St. John's Heritage Parkway, and you've got new development way down, and there's nothing in between, unfortunately. So that's not what I would consider the smartest method of growth. But having had that, now I need to look at how can I build out smart growth from there, so we don't have a lot of sprawl and a lot more of the same. So that would be what I would try to work on. And as we have those big gaps in those spaces, that's an opportunity to say, well, let's preserve some of that land. Not all of that needs to be developed. Some of that needs to be set aside for preservation and conservation. And I think there was a third part to that question. I'm not sure.
No, there wasn't. I think that was it. You pretty much answered everything, but I think I see a question on the board here, and it popped in my head to ask you this too as well. So I'm going to bring it up. This was from Marcia Ramirez, and Ms. Ramirez, thank you for allowing me to ask this. Mr. Moore, what plans, if any, do you have for getting all of Palm Bay in city sewage and water?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Ms. Ramirez. So I currently sit on the Palm Bay, it's not a very great board, but it's the Palm Bay Utilities Advisory Board. And we look at sewage and stormwater and making sure that we have facilities met to the residents' needs. And so the way, of course, we look at that is we're managing now, we're getting in a good spot in the city where all of our structures that actually filter out or have for reclaiming or for dealing with our sewage is actually getting rebuilt and refurbished. That was long overdue. So we're getting back up to space and par on those. And then as we're building out main roads that have a main line to them. And then as that main line's built in, we're going to add feeder sewer to those areas so that people can hook up to those sewers. Now, one of the big things that I'm keenly aware of is making sure that we are able to transition people over that are especially in those areas that are going to be environmentally sensitive. So if you're close to the Indian River Lagoon portion of Palm Bay, or even if you head it farther out west as we're developing out west, you're going to be draining off into the St. John's. And so I want to make sure that those areas do get hooked up to sewer. And with that, we're looking at some state funding and some state help to make sure that we're able to accommodate getting those people hooked up off of septic onto sewer. But we're doing it over time, and we're getting people hooked up as we're getting the lines set up and set out. Okay,
we're getting into our second half of the interview, but I want to remind folks of the debate coming up next week. Next week on the 23rd of February, we'll be having our debates at 8 p.m. And please join us. And I'm going to run a little commercial here to help remind you of what's going to take place. So let's go to the commercial. Please join us on February 2nd, 9th, and 16th for a round of Palm Bay Live interviews for the upcoming special election on March 8th. And join us on February 23rd at 8 p.m. for the final debate, the debate that will set the stage for the March 8th election. Come hear what the candidates have to say. Join us, won't you? Okay, we're back. So please join us next week for that. And we're starting promptly at 8 p.m. Remember to send your questions directly to palmbaylive at gmail.com. That is palmbaylive at gmail.com. That way I can preview the questions and we can get them going for the debate on the 23rd starting at 8 p.m. So please send them by Saturday so I can have them and I can review them. And I do have somebody working with me to go over these questions. Okay, we're back, Mr. Moore. There is a question, and I see it on the board. It's about Mr. Fine, and I want to get right into it because I do have a question prepared on that note. So let me see if I can find that question really fast. I did see it a while ago. Let's see. Here it is. All right. I'm going to place that on the board, but I'm going to ask you a question too. And so let's try to take them piece by piece. You had some conflicts with Randy Fine, and you know everybody knows Randy Fine is our state representative. In the past, according to a post on his Facebook page, he stated that you're under investigation for perjury. He alleges that in 2020, you swore under oath that your address was in West Melbourne, but a year later, in 2021, you swore under oath that you have lived in Palm Bay for 2 years so that you could qualify for the special election. He posted your 2020 candidate oath on his Facebook page. How do you respond to these allegations, sir? And then we can take Wendy Cleveland's question after that.
Okay, so let me answer your question first. So Randy Fine lives in a world of personal attacks where he tries to divide everybody and pit everybody against each other. What he is saying is absolutely false. A lie, just to be honest with you. It's just a complete lie. It's a fabrication of the truth. There's nothing to it. I am not under any type of investigation, period. No investigation. He's completely lying about that. The fact that I added my mailing address is nothing. There's nothing wrong with putting down a mailing address for your place when you fill that out, especially when I ran for state representative. That would be within the district, and there's nothing wrong with putting down a mailing address. In fact, Randy Fine has stated a different address on the same forms when he filed for his office as well. So not where his current residence, but where he wanted it to be so that he could run for that seat. And no, I've lived in Palm Bay again for the period of time that I would need to qualify to run for this, over the period of time that I need to run for this seat. So again, he lives in an area where he tries to pit people against each other. He lives in a world of hate and division, and that's what he continues to try to do. It's just personal attacks, hate, and division. So there is no truth to anything he's saying there.
Okay, let's take Miss Wendy's question. Let's see if this is all on the same. How will you deal with the inevitable attacks and interference from Randy Fine on the city council and still maintain the necessary relationship with the representative for the city? So we need him because he represents us in the state. But how will you work along with him if you were elected?
Yeah, so I think there's two things there. How much? Well, one, he's only going to be in office for 2 more years as a state representative if he gets reelected. So that would be the only thing there. And 2, you've got to ask yourself, what has he really done for the city of Palm Bay? In the 2 years prior, he actually threatened to dissolve the charter of the city of Palm Bay. He wanted to actually remove the city, say that there was no city of Palm Bay. He has attacked our city council members time and time again. And I think what we really need is we need somebody who will stand up for our city, even that if that is against a state representative who's supposed to be representing our city. So I want to make sure that I help do right by the citizens of Palm Bay, serve the citizens. And if that means fighting against our state representative, so be it. That's what it may mean. If he chooses to help the city out and not go after these attacks, these personal attacks, and actually be a state representative for the community, that would be great. Love to see that. Not sure if that will happen, but that's what his job is supposed to be.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Ms. Wendy. Hopefully, he answered your question. Let's see. Let's go back to the comments, see if we have any questions here. Miss Stephanie, he already answered that question about when he moved here and all that good stuff. I didn't see any more questions that's worth answering. I think we already answered the question about Mr. Fine. Okay, so we see some more comments here, but I think we already answered those. So, sir, let's go back to what qualifies you for this particular position now at this present moment. I think you alluded to it, but we want to make sure that it's heard for those who are just joining us. What qualifies you for this position right now?
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you for that question, Kevin. So I've been engaged in the community to try to represent the community for a while now, for at least 4 years. I've been really brushed up on what the issues are, what the laws are. And as I'm running for this seat in particular in the Palm Bay City Council, I have actually done a lot of my homework, that as much as I can, and I'll continue to do, where I've met with departments to try to find out where the deficiencies lie, where we're actually excelling in some areas. I want to make sure that I get an understanding of all of our services and what we can do for our citizens. I've been out, as probably other candidates have been, knocking doors and talking to citizens to find out what are some of the major concerns for them, for the city. And there have been some universal things that I know we need to address. Infrastructure is one of those things. We need to continue to address infrastructure. Safe roads has been a main thing. As we're rebuilding these roads, we want to make sure that now that somebody has a freshly paved road to drive on, that people aren't speeding and starting to drive all over on these roads. So we want to make sure that we manage these roads correctly. And I've gotten feedback and been able to already work to try to make sure that we have addressed those needs for our citizens. So it's that type of work that I want to continue doing as a city council member. And I hope I get the opportunity to serve in that manner, in that capacity. So I'm going to continue doing the work, continue learning the process, and hopefully in these next 6 months, be able to get some work done.
Okay, great. All right. Seen some questions. He already answered majority of these. You probably just joining us, Miss Tiffany, because he already addressed most of those questions already. He states his job situation already, and he talks about his living situation. Here, Miss Crystal keeps asking this question about bringing Hardee's to Palm Bay. She asked in my last interview, will you bring Hardee's to Palm Bay, or will you work on getting up Hardee's to Palm Bay?
So, Miss Crystal, thank you for asking that question. And I have made a priority to try to spur commercial growth in the city. And that would be restaurants as well, not just businesses, but small businesses, franchises, and restaurants and the like. Mom and pop stores, local as well. I love to shop local, but we need, of course, to make sure that we have big chains, whether that be an Aldi's or a Publix, as we're looking to expand too. So I am keenly aware and want to make sure that we have a variety of places for our citizens to be able to shop and go to.
Okay, great. And also, we're looking about entertainment for our city. We don't have a lot of that going on right now. So what can we do in that regard?
Yeah, so that's going to be a longer vision, not something that I'm going to be able to do in the 6-month plan.
Mm-hmm.
But it is definitely something that I do have on my long-term radar. We have to try to find a way of developing kind of downtown or kind of that main street area to build some entertainment to it. And I do have some visions. I don't know how well they'll go over because I got to see what we can do in terms of the comp plan. And usually when you set a comp plan in place, it's kind of hard to make revisions and changes when you're putting the plan in motion. So I've got to see how I can make some workarounds and work within the constraints there that I have. But I definitely see that we do need, this city is getting bigger and bigger, and we need to have those types of amenities as well as the city grows to the size it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I love West Melbourne, but I need to have something in Palm Bay for me to go to. West Melbourne, I always have to go over to West Melbourne to find good restaurants, etc.,
Yeah,
or downtown Melbourne.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so this what do you support defending the police? I've heard rumors. Okay, I don't know what rumors Randy have heard, but you want to enlighten us? Do you support defending the police?
So absolutely. And, I think we need to and I've been a big advocate of making sure that our police are
I think he
supported.
okay. Pause. He said defunding. He
Oh,
made a mistake. Okay.
defunding the police. Okay. Yeah. So actually, again, I'm going to talk on a big misnomer. I'm sorry you heard that, Mr. Wickens. But I've spoken with our city manager, and again, I've spoken to our finance department. With the development and growth of our city, there is absolutely no way we can actually take away any money from our basic services, which is fire, water, police, sewer, roads. The growth we're already behind. We're still behind in the number of police officers, the number of firefighters, fire stations that we need, and the size of the city we have. So it's the exact opposite. We're really behind the eight ball, and I recognize that. And I think all of our council members currently recognize that we have gaps where we need to try to get people trained up. We need to have good, qualified officers that get good pay, as well as fire. I'm leaning towards fire right now because I just recently had a meeting with them, and we want to make sure that I have fire rescue services met at a certain time frame when they get to a person's home. And I don't want to run a risk of not being able to have a call come in and say somebody, we didn't get there for 15 minutes when it should be like 7 or 8. And the other area where we need a lot of funding, and I want to put money towards this right away, is our dispatch and the IT and the infrastructure there that they're using to try to get calls in and out. So I'm keenly aware that our dispatch services needs to be totally revamped. So I'm actually in favor of putting a lot of money behind making sure that infrastructure gets rebuilt and put in place. So the exact opposite. So sorry you heard that.
Okay. You have answered a lot of questions. There is another question that's been percolating on social media, has to do with traffic tickets. You've heard of those situations. Apparently, folks are saying that you have a lot of traffic tickets, and you want to address those and talk about what happened and
Sure.
where you are now with that situation.
So yes, in my past, I had a little bit of a lead foot, and I also used to ride around on a motorcycle. And you can be targeted sometimes seeing a motorcycle, and you can tend to go a little bit too fast. And so I did have in my past a number of traffic citations, a lot of speeding tickets. My last traffic citation was over 9 years ago. So I have since slowed down tremendously. I now drive a Prius, and I enjoy actually saving gas and going at a slower speed to where I'm being much more fuel efficient. So I can happily say that I have a safe driving record, no recent traffic violation. You can look in the last 9 years. And I'm very happy to say that part of me is in the past.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for that. Well, Mr. Moore, I don't see any more. Let's see. How does he feel about boys using girls? I don't know, Tiffany. I don't think that's a Palm Bay issue. I don't know if you want to address this or not. It's totally up to you. You can say pass if you want to pass it.
Playing girls' sports.
How do you feel about boys using girls' restrooms and play girls' sports?
Yeah. So I don't think right now, if a boy went into a girls' restroom, that wouldn't be right. I mean, I think that's against any rules or regulations that's in place at the school level. So boys they don't use the same bathroom as girls. In terms of playing girls' sports, so I can't speak to do we have boys playing girls' sports right now. But I remember being in sports medicine and dealing with equality and equity. We had a number of sports where we we didn't have enough women playing equal a number of men's sports. So if we had a baseball team, we had to make sure that we had a softball team as well, because there wasn't equity. So I want to make sure that there's equity in schools, that all children, no matter where they are, have the ability to play in sports. It's not something that I'm going to be dealing with, but in terms of recreational sports in the city, we do offer those. I am on the recreational advisory board, and I want to make sure that we continue to offer recreational sports to our kids, to be able to play and enjoy themselves and have fun.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right, Mr. Moore, I'm going to allow you to give me your final thoughts and tell the viewers why you're running for Palm Bay City Council Seat 5, and the platform is yours.
Thanks again, Kevin, and I appreciate the time. I appreciate everybody for taking the time to listen in or catching this on a recording. So again, my name is Phil Moore, and I do want your vote. I'm asking for your vote for this special election to try to help out Palm Bay, continue the good work that the Palm Bay City Council is doing, and to try to help bring Palm Bay into the future. And if I had a slogan, I was trying to say we're going to be Palm Bay United. Continue to unite Palm Bay and build and grow together, and make sure that we manage it together, and we're going to do good things with our services together. So I'm asking for your support, your vote on March 8th. If you haven't already, please do go vote. These special elections do really count. And I hope that you saw everything you saw tonight is something you like to hear. You can always reach out to me too. My website is philforpb.com. You can email me. I do respond to emails. I don't usually respond to Facebook, but email me at philforpb@gmail.com, and I will try to get back to you there too. So thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you. So my final appeal for tonight, I'm going to request again everyone to please submit your questions for the debate to palmbaylive@gmail.com. No questions will be taken live during that debate, so please send them ahead of time to palmbaylive@gmail.com. I just look at my email and I do see questions coming in, so that's good. You guys are being responding to that ask. Also, please join the YouTube channel for Palm Bay Live, youtube.com/Palm Bay Live. Please join it. This is going to be the last interview for this special election. Again, next week we'll have the debates, and then we'll take a break and we will get ready for November. I am praying to God that come November we'll be able to take some of these for that cycle. We'll be able to take some of these into an environment where we can invite audience participation, etc. And so we want that to happen. So I'm hoping that COVID will calm down and things will try to get back to normal so we can be able to make that happen. So look for special announcements in regards to Palm Bay Live. There's some stuff I'm planning behind the scenes as things get calmer for Palm Bay Live and where the direction I want to take it. So please continue to support me, support the channel, support the environment, and what I'm trying to create here. This is a community initiative, and it's built for you, for the people, by the people. So you can join me by requesting to write for the platform, etc. So palmbaylive.com is the website, and join the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Palm Bay Live. We need a lot more users on there. And then again, lastly, the debate will be next week. So please come out in the numbers, knock on the neighbor's door and tell a neighbor about this debate, because not a lot of folks are aware about this special election. So we need a lot of folks tuning in so they can hear from the candidates. They can hear exactly what's happening from their mouth, what their plans are, what they plan to do for Palm Bay. They will be able to hear that. So join us next week, 8 p.m. Eastern. And until then, I'll see you. Good night, Palm Bay.
Thank you, everybody.